Hello, Moonbreakers. This is Charlie Cleveland, game director on Moonbreaker, and I wanted to just take a few minutes to go through what we're working on now, kind of give you an idea of where we are with Moonbreaker's development, how we're thinking about the game, and also just give you an idea of how we're thinking about the features that are coming up and how we're approaching development going forward. We've been doing early access for a long time for our other games like Subnautica, and we were thinking that we had a lot more of this game figured out by this time. Before, we thought this early access would be a little easier, a little less work than Subnautica, but it looks like we got plenty of work to do. So I wanted to give you an overview of what those features look like. Okay, so let's see. First of all, this is probably the biggest thing, is we thought, we set out to make a digital miniatures game, and we ended up by making something that had a little bit more of a CCG, a collectible card game influence, and we were kind of excited about that to make sure that the meta never got stale. I think that's where the first influence came from. But if you've been playing since the beginning of early access these past 2 months, then you probably have noticed that we removed the whole card drawing idea. We just got rid of all the randomness. So along with that removal, we realized we actually have a bigger philosophical shift, and we want to move away from this kind of abstract CCG feel and just fully embrace this luscious miniatures game. So, you can see, like, this is maybe how we're thinking about it in the past, kind of thinking of, like, kind of zoomed out with just a couple stats. The board itself doesn't really do much. It's just kind of like blank. This is Runeterra, Legends of Runeterra, excellent game. Same kind of idea, just a few, just like attack and health, simple board. Magic, of course, we all know Magic. And we can even see this like card view here, looks a lot like even our roster view does. And this is just how we used to think about it. And we wanted to make the game really simple and accessible. But actually, I think we realized by doing that we've actually just not really focused on the lusciousness of miniatures. I mean, we're the first miniatures game out there. I mean, you could argue some games have done something like this, but we're really the first ones leaning fully into miniatures, digital miniatures. So let's do that. Let's have richer abilities, cooler terrain. We can have map scenarios. Just really don't be afraid of that richness and the depth and the complexity. So right here is kind of the summary here. This is only like a 10 or 20% pivot, but it's actually going to make a huge difference. And this is kind of what it looks like. So like here, this is a Warhammer Kill Team. You can just see, like, look how cool this environment looks. And this is how we started thinking about the game way back when we started it, but we just kind of lost track of it. Our terrain is very short. It's very, very simple. You can see these screenshots. Look how lush that is. Here's a really cool zoomed in view. I don't think we'll actually go all the way to dice or anything, but it's possible. Who knows? I forgot which. I think it's it's Marvel Crisis Protocol, and you can just see like how rich these units are. They're colorful, they're detailed. We're zoomed in. There's kind of a lot of stuff going on here. This is Warhammer. So this is a really cool game called Rivenstone, which is not quite out yet. It's on Kickstarter, though. I highly recommend you check it out. It looks awesome, although you're gonna have to spend a pile of money to get it. Unlike Moonbreaker. So yeah, look how cool these unit cards are. They have like all these stats, there's like flavor text per ability. There's a whole bunch of abilities. I don't think we want to go this far. I think this is too complex, but it's just nice to think about, okay, we're a miniatures game. Don't be afraid of that richness and the theme and the numbers. So what does that mean? That's kind of like the high level pivot. And I just want to go into the exact features that we're talking about shipping sooner rather than later. You can see up here for astute viewers, this says slated for January, but no promises. Nothing in here can possibly be construed as a ship date or a promise. No promises. Please promise that to yourself. There's no promises here. We're human. We're just trying to make this game as good as we can, as fast as we can. But there's a lot of moving parts. So just take that all with a grain of salt. look at this. Even this card right here, it looks like a card. We don't want this to look like a card anymore. So first thing we're going to be adding is speed. We have this working. I'm not sure if it's actually going to show up on this tooltip here or not, but hopefully we'll get that in soon. And this is just getting away from the health and attack, the 2 stat thing that you see in all those CCGs that I just showed you. Let's break away from that. The first one is speed. And this is actually going to fix something a lot of you guys have been asking for, is the melee range differentiation. We have this working internally. It's working really well. So I can't wait to release that for you guys. Next one is something you guys have also been talking about. I should actually just bring it up here. Moonbreaker.note.io. I should have done this before. This is the victory conditions. It's probably right here. Victory conditions. Yep. How many votes does this one have? 15. Not too many, but a lot of people have been saying like they just get bored of just kill the captain, and I can totally understand why. So you'll see how we build up to that in a second. So pretty soon the victory will not be killing the captain, it'll be gaining 10 victory points. So we're adding this little VP thing to the UI here. Next, bounties. Okay, so a bounty is how many victory points you get when a unit is destroyed. So in this case, Extilior has a bounty of 10. So right here, that's a 10. It's hard to see. So all the captains will spawn with a bounty of 10. So of course, if they die, you still win. But it also allows us to do other cool things like assign bounties to really powerful units in the meta. So we can look at the top, say 5 or 10% of the units that people are winning with, and we can automatically assign a bounty. We could even do that like every day or every Thursday or every 2 days or whatever. Maybe we could even escalate that. So the top units, the longer they stay in the top of the meta, they get stronger bounties. This doesn't mean we would stop working on their balance. Of course, we want to make sure that some units are just not reigning supreme over the other ones, but it does make it really interesting. It basically creates a risk to play with that unit if you want to keep playing with that unit. So you might be incentivized to go play with some other units. So super excited about that. Okay, it's all gonna tie together in a second here. Next is adding control points, something a lot of you have asked for as well. I should have brought up the notes beforehand, but these are circular regions that if you hold them at the beginning of your turn and there's no enemies in them, you get 1, 2, or 3 victory points. This is my great victory point icon. So, okay, that's control points. Next would be harvestable cinder units. So we're just going to repurpose some of these cinder props, like this little mining cart on the refinery, and these will become neutral units, and so they'll have a health, and if a melee unit attacks that, then your team will get that much cinder as how much damage you did to it. That's how much cinder you get. Ranged units will do nothing. Okay, now those are all the building blocks. This is kind of the key. Adding objectives and basically adding objectives. That's kind of the big thing that will tie all this together. So you can still win by killing the captain, but there's other ways to do it as well. So here's an example. We can put these two control points here, and then you can have one person spawn here, one person spawn here, and now that becomes like an attack defend kind of setup, where the defender is a little closer to these control points, than the attacker is, and that's how we actually put the spawn right here. Like the idea is that they came running out of this tunnel as soon as they heard someone was attacking, and then this open area is where they kind of drop down. So that gives us a really primitive attack defend scenario. But we can do some other cool stuff too. That same map, or no, sorry, that's not the same map. That's a different map. It's look kind of the same. This one, it would be like a claiming refinery resources scenario. So there's a central point here where that cool prop is, and that would give 1, 2, or 3 VP the longer you hold it. Now here we put the 2 spawns near each other, and then we also have these like far away cinder, not really far away, but like cinder you have to like sprint over here to get if you want to. So now you have multiple ways to handle this situation. You can kill the captain, you can move some units towards the central point and just try to win that way and defend that, or maybe you want to make it harder for yourself and go defend these areas and get cinder. What else can we do? Lots of cool stuff once we have these props. Secure the drop well. I was looking at this little well here. It's not really a well, it's just a hole. But like, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a theme there? So like, why is that hole there? What could you do with it? Well, maybe you have to secure it. So maybe you're actually dropping something into that, like getting rid of some goods. I don't know why I call this secure drop well. It should be like, I don't know, like evacuate contraband or something. That would actually make more sense. So that each turn that you stay there, you're basically dropping off junk and getting rid of it, so you're not caught holding it. So you'd spawn over here, and look how close the players are, but then they can actually go over here and grab all these spawn points, all these objectives here. And these maps, I just removed all the soft and hard cover, but that's not planned. We're actually going to have that in here. I just wanted to kind of mock it up quickly without thinking about the soft and hard cover, but we can have variants for each one of these. And in this map, we might have to put in like these kind of obstructions here to make sure that you don't go off in this part of the map. That's pretty easy. Here's another way we could make an objective play differently on that same map. So I don't know, this is called weapons detail. So here we have these cannons, and you could actually capture them by holding them, by touching them, and then they become like turrets. So you can actually use them, spend synergy to use them. So maybe these two things are blocking these two control points, and then again, asymmetric spawns. It starts to become pretty interesting. I'll go through a couple more of these, but yeah, here's one where you spawn next to some cinder, but you can sprint across the map and hold a control point over there. Here's like this free-for-all brawl where we have like the players spawn really close to each other, but tons of cinder and this like giant control point. This is just a giant melee. Oh, here we go. Jettison dangerous goods. Already getting ahead of myself. I haven't looked at this for a little while. So this would be that giant control point where you'd stuff contraband down that well. Here's another one. Like, I thought, oh, wouldn't it be so cool? Like, we've got this cool bridge. We don't do anything with it. Well, why don't we make that into some kind of capture point? So maybe if you hold this, we'd have to add a rectangular version of it. But maybe you get 5 VPs if you can hold that bridge. It becomes really, really powerful. Okay, so that's kind of like what we want to do in the short term. We're going to try to get this stuff done. I'm going to switch over here. We're going to try to get this stuff done in the next, I don't know, month or two. Again, no promises. And then we do have some other stuff. And I'm just going to show you kind of the high level. Probably get in trouble for doing this, but I'm just going to do it anyways because I'm like that. So here are some longer term exploration ideas. And again, these are not promises, but these are all fitting within the idea of a real detailed miniatures game. So here we have deployment zones. So maybe you can choose where you deploy inside that zone. This could help us with the player 1, player 2 advantage, which we mostly have under control now, but has some not great side effects. So this might be a better way to do that. This is a staple of miniatures games, being able to choose where you deploy. A little different for us because we only have a captain instead of deploying all your roster, but that could definitely work. I already talked about usable map locations. So we already have a really flexible framework for gameplay abilities. So this would be pretty simple to add. I already talked about this. Besides these scenarios, I was also thinking how cool it would be if we had like dynamic, not just weather, but like gameplay effects that would happen. So maybe like if you're playing one of those, if you're playing on a smuggler's moon, maybe sometimes the Methodori are attacking, trying to clean out those illegal smugglers. And so every 3 turns, they drop a random orbital strike wherever there's a smuggler. So, yeah, so these are ways to like really bring the world theme to life and kind of integrate that with the gameplay. So we could also have like, I don't know, maybe there's like a meteor storm or something. So it's like dropping rocks all over the map. I think we'd want to put that all up front so you don't, it doesn't happen like randomly during the game. It would tell you up front that the meteors are going to drop and show you where they're going to drop ahead of time, or they just all drop at the beginning of the match. So you can really plan. What else could we do? We could add lore for these different abilities to get that richness. I've already started to experiment with adding second abilities for more expensive units. There's some units coming, I think in season 2, that have extra abilities that are not captains. So the rule internally up till now has been captains have a 1 cost, a 2 cost, and a passive, and everyone else, all the other crew, just have a single either passive or Cinder ability. So I think we actually want to no longer embrace that constraint. I think it's holding us back. Another thing would be adding sprinting. This is just an idea, but it could be something like unit moves 50% farther if it's the only action they take that turn. So if they have already attacked, then they couldn't sprint. And if they sprinted, then they couldn't attack, something like that. I'm not sure, we haven't tried it yet or anything. Terrain verticality, this is another staple for miniatures games. This may have some technical constraints and problems and difficulties, so again, not a promise, but something we're thinking about. This would definitely add a lot visually and probably tactically as well. Full camera controls are something we've talked about. It definitely is difficult for how we construct our maps, but it is something that people keep requesting here. We are taking this seriously. We've been taking baby steps towards adding more. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe we'll add full camera controls. Let us know what you think. Another one would be faction synergies. People have been asking for that. They actually ask for it in a different way, which is they want limitations on factions. Like you could only use, like with Exterior, you could only have smugglers, something like that. We don't want to solve it that way. We don't want a game where we have such limits, because we don't have a huge number of units. We really want everything to work with everything else. But we could really flip that around and have synergies, so you could choose up to 1 synergy per roster, and that would give you a benefit for all units of a particular faction. So that solves it in a different way. That allows you to identify with a faction and be incentivized for having more units of a faction, a culture faction, I use them interchangeably, but you can still mix in other units. I think that might be a really cool way for us to do that. I've also considered doing compound props, so having a lot more detailed, I guess props aren't really the right word, but cover models. So maybe there's like a climbing cost to get up here, and so like if you move from like down here to up here, it's going to take a certain amount just to move up there, and then now you're on elevated terrain, and then now you have soft cover on these edges, and then no cover over here. This is just a way we could use our existing props to just have a lot cooler, rich environmental effects, gameplay effects. A couple other last things, something like Into the Breach has like destroyable objects. You could get VP for destroying them, or maybe you could even have objects that you'd have to destroy in order to open a route. So hopefully that gives you an idea of where we're, kind of the direction we're headed. We've been learning a ton during this early access period. It's been a little choppy, but we're getting there. And thanks for all that feedback. Keep it coming, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.